is a beautiful day to be a New York Giants fan, and that is something that we could not say for a very long time. The Giants have officially signed John Harbaugh to a 5-year, $100 million deal. We have our coach, guys. It's official. Everyone can take a deep breath. I hope everyone was able to enjoy your weekend as soon as you got the news that it was official, signed, sealed, delivered. John Harbaugh is the guy, at least for the next 5 years. I think it's a perfect amount of time to get started. I think it's the best way to go about things. I'm just relieved that it's done, and I'm excited to move forward. As a Giants fan, I have been covering this team since 2020, and it has been ugly, as you all know, for the last 5 years. We've had one good year. So to say that it feels like we finally have this curse lifted from the franchise and we are headed in the right direction kind of feels like a dream come true. This is the type of offseason that if you're someone like me and you cover this team for a living and it has been absolutely miserable for 4 out of 5 years, or even longer than that for some of you who've been doing it longer, this is what I've dreamt of for months and months and months, and at this point, years. So I hope everyone can bask in it, can enjoy, can relax, and be excited about where we're headed moving forward, because this franchise is finally headed in the right direction. We've got good things that went on in the front office, which we're going to talk about. Everyone is on the same page, and I just think we can finally be like, yes, it feels good to be a Giants fan. And like I said, it's been a long time since we've been able to say that. So we have John Harbaugh officially for the next 5 years. He can always be extended if, we go to the Super Bowl. And then, if after 5 years we feel like the front office feels like he's gotten us as far as we can go with him and a Super Bowl is maybe not in his future, but we're back on a winning path. We've signed Jackson Dart to a long-term deal. Malik Neighbors is an all-pro. Dexter Lawrence, if everything is headed in the right direction and they just feel like they need someone who can step it up a notch, then they can move on. But I think 5 years is extremely reasonable for John Harbaugh. He said that he wants to be coaching for the next 8 to 10 years. I think this is a great place to start. And now I want to get into some of what people in the building have said, because there is obviously a lot of excitement from everyone who has been really directly involved in this. And, what John Mara and Chris Mara and everyone has been able to do for that. So let me just go ahead and pull up these quotes here. I have a lot of really good quotes from John Harbaugh too, and I think a lot of Giants fans are going to be really excited about that. Just the things that he's saying, and what he said from day one is that, he feels good about this roster and he's very excited about where we're headed. So, of course, the article that I'm looking for does not have the quotes, so give me 1 second here while I go ahead and pull it up from Ian O'Connor. Also, what I'm loving is I hope you guys follow the Giants on social media. They're letting the drafts fly and everything. It's just so exciting to see that everyone is finally on the same page with this. And I'm glad I pulled this up because I want to read this tweet from Kayvon before we get to John Mara. Kayvon tweeted this, quote, "Full circle moment, ... I always tell the story of me not watching football. The first full game I watched was the Ravens beating the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Think I was 13. Now I have the opportunity to play for John Harbaugh, ... LFG, 5 exclamation points, end quote. So to hear something like that from Thibodeau, Carl Banks is talking about how excited he is and how he feels like this was such a good fit. There's just an excitement and a unitedness that there has not been from the Giants fan base in such a long time. So I'm really, really excited about that because I just think that it's, again, nice to feel like, hey, maybe we got this figured it out, at least, for now. Maybe it's going to work. Of course, I cannot find this freaking thing. But I do want to talk about John Mara for a minute because he rearranged his cancer treatments to make sure that he could be in every single interview, that he could be very involved with this process, and that he could do everything he possibly could to get John Harbaugh as the new head coach of the New York Giants. I cannot believe that I cannot find this freaking quote. Hold on, maybe this is it. Okay, I got a quote from Steve Tisch. It's going to have to do for now. Quote, John is a proven winner whose teams are disciplined, resilient, and prepared. His passion for the game, his ability to connect with players, and his experience leading at the highest level made him an outstanding fit for us, and we're excited to move forward together. And again, I give this front office staff a lot of grief. I found the quote. Okay. I give them a lot of grief because they obviously have made some really poor decisions over the last decade or so, but I'm glad that they were able to kind of like look internally and be like, hey, we need someone who not only has a proven record, but someone who's going to be able to turn this team around from top to bottom and be able to get some of the young guys to improve. Player development is something that this team has literally sucked at for years. So player development is going to be a big part of this. And I just like that they were able to be like, all right, we're going to do something. We're going to do everything we possibly can to get John Harbaugh because he is the perfect fit for us. And this is what we need, especially where this franchise is at right now. So I appreciate that instead of them doing like what Woody Johnson is doing or what Jerry Jones is doing and just like being involved, but in a bad way. Like I think they finally got it right from the way that they were involved, and they were involved in a good way. Anyway, this is the quote from John Mara. We are proud to name John Harbaugh as the next head coach of the New York Giants. Joe Schoen presented us an outstanding group of candidates, which allowed us to be deliberate and confident in this decision. Through numerous conversations, John consistently stood out for his conviction and vision for leading a winning organization, and we welcome him and his family to the Giants. So obviously John Mara must feel like he reeled in the big kahuna and, he got the right guy to lead this franchise moving forward. And I really think that he did. But I want to talk about John Harbaugh because I think this is a really, really great article. I've said this before and I will say it again. If you have not been following Ian O'Connor, he is a writer. He covers the Giants, a reporter, but he writes for The Athletic. He has been so involved in this and he talked all about Harbaugh. He's got great quotes from him. So let's get into it because I think it's gonna take everyone to the next level. Anyway, this is part of the article that he has. 2 days after he was fired by the Baltimore Ravens, John Harbaugh used the word "we" when he talked about the New York Giants. He did not catch himself or correct himself in our phone conversations because it felt right, it sounded right. Quote from Harbaugh. I think we can win games next year with this rosters and the players coming back. That was 2 days after he was fired. 2 days. He was already thinking the Giants are it. Now, after this is another quote from Harbaugh. This is the job for me. End quote. 4 years ago, when Ian, asked John Harbaugh if he thought his kid brother Jim might want to go work for the Giants, who were in the market for the coach, Harbaugh paused before responding with more than a healthy dose of incredulity. The New York Football Giants? Are you kidding me? And then obviously we all know what happened. He went to the Chargers and the Giants hired, hired Table. And then this is another quote from Ian. Some years ago, I asked Harbaugh if it was important to him to be known as the best coach in the NFL. Quote, sure, absolutely, he responded. Quote, but I would rather be the best coach in the NFL. I'm working for that. I'm trying to get there. End quote. So I think that says a lot about who he is as a coach. He's always striving to be better. He's done a great job, obviously, with the Ravens, and he's going to come in here and have a lot of work to do. Now, I have more quotes from you that I want to read because his introductory press conference is Tuesday at 12 p.m. I am certain that it's going to be live streamed on the Giants YouTube. So we will recap that on Wednesday. I'm so excited to hear what else he has to say, but let's start with this. Quote, it's the New York Football Giants. I can't wait to get started. I know how great our fans are. I've seen them close up enough. We are going to build a team that's going to play a brand of football that you will be proud of. End quote. Now, Harbaugh told Ian O'Connor this on a phone conversation Saturday afternoon, I believe after everything was dotted and signed and etc. Another quote, the history of the league means something to us. Why? Because it's the New York Football Giants and I'm their head coach. What a day. He was asked about Joe Schoen. Quote, I really like Joe. We had great football talks and great life talks. He's a hard worker and I'm ready for us to roll up our sleeves. This is a quote from Joe Schoen now. Throughout our conversations, John stood out for his clarity, competitiveness, and approach for building a sustainable winning program. He has a strong track record of developing players, ding, 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 building cohesive staffs, ding, 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 something Dable was not able to do, and setting a clear standard of accountability, ding, 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 ding. We are excited to work with John in moving this team in the right direction. Right direction. So now back to John Harbaugh quote, "It will be the same as it was in Baltimore and really everywhere around the league. We're going to work until we agree." This is in reference to John's relationship with Joe. Again, the names between John Mara, Joe Schoen, John Harbaugh, like someone could have named, there's something like Patrick maybe, something to just spread it out a little bit. Anyway, another quote from Harbaugh. "The conversations with John and Chris Mara and Joe about that were great. We're not going to be much bigger operationally, but it takes time to put that together in negotiations. It finally came together, and I like the start of where we are going, but we still have to build that out. We're on the same page with it. That's been a little overblown. We are going to bolster up the analytics a bit. The Giants actually have a bigger sports science staff than we had in Baltimore. We didn't really have a sports science department in Baltimore," end quote. Now, what he's talking to is the facts around the negotiations and why the process took so long. And I know the speculation was like, oh, Joe Schoen's the problem. He's getting involved. Look, you guys, I am really hard on Joe Schoen. I do not think he's a great GM. He was not a part of the problem. There was one person who reported on that, and that one person literally hates Joe Schoen and has a vendetta against him. So trust the Ian O'Connors, the Gary Myers, those people of the world, not the drama queens of the New York Post world. So anyway, he was asked, he said final negotiations with the Giants involved building the football operation structure. I want to talk about that for a second, because Gary Myers, who's covered the Giants forever and who wrote a book about the Giants, said that since I believe it was 69, not 79, but it could be one of those. The head coach of the New York Giants has always reported to the GM. I am going to repeat that. For over 40 years, the structure of the Giants has always been that the head coach reports to the GM. John Harbaugh came in and said, not on my watch. Absolutely not. So this is part of the reason why the negotiations took so long, is because they were changing the reporting structure of the organization. So now John Harbaugh is going to report directly to ownership. Now, obviously, him and Joe Schoen are going to be very heavily involved, and they are going to be working together every minute of every day. But I think this is really important because John Harbaugh has a 5-year deal with the New York Giants, not Joe Schoen anymore. Joe Schoen was not extended. So the reality is 2026 is a big opportunity for Joe Schoen to prove that he deserves an extension. Okay, he was able to get Harbaugh in the building. That's great. You got him to sign the deal. Great. However, if John Harbaugh comes in here in 2026 and wins 6 games with this roster, Joe Schoen is getting fired because this is Joe Schoen's roster, not John Harbaugh's. So I think that this was really well done. As someone who has complained a lot about the way that this organization runs and the problems that they have and the nepotism that is involved in the organization and the people who are very high up in the organization who are all related to the Mara family, I think this is the best thing that could possibly come out of John Harbaugh being the Giants coach. And I know that, look, he's not going to be here forever, but the fact that he came in and his experience and he was able to get the Giants to say, look, your way has not worked. We're going to try it my way for a few years and see if it works. And I can prove to you that it worked because it worked in Baltimore for 18 years. We're going to fix it. And, I have been saying that the Giants need to do what the Falcons did this offseason, which was bring in a CEO, someone who's outside the organization of football operations. And I think this is the next best thing because obviously they're not doing that right now. But I think that allowing John Harbaugh, someone who's had 18 years of success, of drafts, of free agency, of winning, of player development, of all of these things that Joe Schoen has not been able to do in 4 years, John Harbaugh is going to be able to help and turn this around. Now, I don't know what that means for Chris Mara and Tim McDonald, some of the guys who are very high up in the scouting and player personnel department. But what I do believe is that John Harbaugh is really making a difference immediately from the structure of this organization. And I think that is going to make a really, really big difference. So I'm very, very excited about that. Next up, Harbaugh said this, quote, "I'm very excited about these players. I spoke with Jackson 2 or 3 times at length, and I couldn't be more impressed with him. Watched him on tape. He had a heck of a rookie season, and he's got the right mindset. That is one tough dude," end quote. Harbaugh also spoke to Tom Coughlin, and this is what he had to say, quote, "He was a big part of this process for me. I've admired him as a coach and friend, and he really encouraged me to go forward with the Giants," end quote. Lastly, from John Harbaugh, we have this. "I think the Giants roster is strong, and it's our job to make it stronger. We are going to compete for the playoffs and for championships. I expect and want to make the playoffs next year," end quote. That's it, you guys. The expectation is winning. It's not, oh, well, Jackson Dart can't have a sophomore slump, or, Abdul Carter has to be better this year. No, the expectation is we win or you're gone, Joe Shane, and that's it. That's it. We are not settling for mediocrity around here anymore, okay? The amount of people who told me that this season was not about winning, please stop, okay? We are winning moving forward. That's what this organization is about now. It's not about how the coaches do in year 1, what the offense looks like, how Jackson Dart does this and how Malik Neighbors comes back in year 3 and yada, yada, yada. It's about winning, and they are going to do everything they possibly can to win football games. So I think it's fair to get excited, Giants fans. I think it's fair to have high standards this year, that it is a 500 record or nothing. And you heard it from the coach. Forget about just the 500 record. It's playoffs. Let's go. We are coming for the division. We are coming for the wild card. We are coming for the playoffs. Let's effing go, Giants fans. Ooh! Have a great night. We'll be